Hey there, it's Sara from the No More Wasted Days podcast, and I'm coming at you with a shorty episode. Today we are talking all about why willpower isn't enough. Oftentimes, people might believe that they just need to have enough willpower to get through their alcohol-free journey, and that just isn't true. And today I'm going to teach you why it's not true, and I'm going to teach you how you can have tools in place to get past the hard times when willpower isn't enough. So research shows that relying solely on willpower is not enough for overcoming addiction. A study published in Psychology Today states that most individuals who depend exclusively on willpower to change their behaviors will often fail. This is because willpower alone doesn't address the underlying psychological and physiological factors that are driving addiction. And I know this to be true because way back in probably 2016, I decided I would take a break from quitting drinking. It was November, and I decided I would do a 30-day break from alcohol because I could see that my habits were getting a little bit out of hand from where I wanted them to be. I was starting to drink every night. I was starting to really look forward to the glass of wine or two or three that I was having in the evening. And I just didn't like that. So I decided I would take a break. And the only tool that I used in that month was willpower. I was just going to take a break for the month, and that was it. I had no tools in place, no strategies in place, and guess what? I was not successful. I met up with friends a few days before Thanksgiving, and they convinced me really quickly to have a drink with them. And I didn't just have one drink with them, I had two or three that day. And once I had done that, I was like, I'm done. I don't need to do this full 30 days that I was going to do. The rest of November is mine. So I had no why behind it. And I caved so easily. And then I just couldn't get back on track because I was really relying on willpower. I am so excited to dive into this topic with you. And I think that you're going to learn a lot from this. And before we dive all the way into the topic, I want to remind you that you can hop onto the waitlist for my Push to 100. That's right. I am hosting my first ever Push to 100 alcohol-free challenge. I will be leading you through 100 days of being alcohol-free. The challenge starts on January 1st, 2025, and the enrollment to this will open in late December. But if you are on the wait list, you will be one of the first people to be notified on December 16th. To get on the wait list for the Push to 100, just head to the show notes and check out the link that I've put there, and you can get yourself all signed up. You can do this while you're listening to the episode. So by the end of this, you're all set up to have that early access to the Push to 100. If you're curious about what comes in the Push to 100, it starts out with an intense 30-day challenge at the beginning where I'll set you up with daily videos and daily emails so you never feel alone on your journey. And along with that, there will be a private message thread for all the members of the Push to 100, and we'll be able to communicate with each other in that message thread through the full 100 days. And I will host 2 group coaching calls each month. So what happens after those 30 intense days that I was talking about? I actually will guide you through 5 modules after that, where we'll touch on things like managing your cravings, using diet and nutrition to support your alcohol-free journey, and even topics like goal setting and setting up your habits for success so when you're done with the challenge, you can keep going on your alcohol-free journey. You will also receive 1 month of access to our Daymakers community after the challenge is over, so you're not left alone and you can decide if that Daymakers community is a good fit for you to continue on with. Now, I know this all sounds super awesome and I know you can't wait to hop in, but it gets even better. The first 20 people to join will receive a 30-minute one-on-one coaching call with me. So it's super important to get onto that wait list, so make sure you go do that while you're listening to this episode. Again, the link to join is in the show notes to this episode. Okay, let's keep talking about all things willpower. First, we're going to dive into the myth of willpower. And before we can really understand why the idea of using willpower to get through your alcohol-free journey is a myth, you have to first understand what willpower even is. So the dictionary defines it as the ability to control one's own actions, emotions, or urges. And after the definition, there was a sentence using the word willpower in it as an example. And I found it so interesting, so I wanted to share it with you. It said, Alcoholics can't stop drinking through willpower alone. They need to alter behavior that triggers the impulse to drink. And that quote is by James Atlas. I just found it super interesting that I was doing research for a podcast episode all about willpower and why it won't be enough on your alcohol-free journey. And then the example that the dictionary uses of the word willpower included that in there as well. So there's a lot of myths revolving around willpower, and a lot of it starts in our cultural narrative. Our society glorifies willpower as the ultimate tour for change. You'll hear it said time and time again. I'll post things on TikTok and people will even say, it's just because you don't have enough willpower. Our culture is like this with willpower because we tend to emphasize things like perseverance and self-reliance. Like, just think about shows like Survivor or Naked and Afraid, where you're watching people go through these grueling things and you're thinking, wow, they have so much perseverance and they're really working on their self-reliance skills. We can be really drawn to seeing people push through and overcoming huge obstacles. And then we think, well, we need to do this. And this can be harmful because it makes the idea of willpower very black and white. You can either do the hard thing because you have willpower, or you can't do it because you don't have willpower. And it just oversimplifies the idea to do hard things like quitting drinking. Now, willpower won't be enough when it comes to ditching alcohol, and there's a few things that are uniquely challenging to quitting alcohol. Number one, it's addictive in nature. Alcohol is addictive to everyone. It's not addictive to a certain group of people. It is addictive to everyone. And it's super present everywhere in social and cultural settings. You could go to a kid's birthday party and it's highly likely that you will be offered an alcoholic beverage. It is just everywhere in our society. Also, drinking causes our brain chemistry to change. When you drink, the brain's chemistry is changed by increasing the level of dopamine and lowering the amounts of glutamate. Alcohol becomes addictive because of this, because your body stops producing as much dopamine on its own, so it begins to rely on alcohol. So we can't just say that willpower is enough and it will get you through, because it's an addictive substance and your brain has stopped working in the correct way, and now you're low on dopamine sources, so you need to learn how to get that back into your life. Also, willpower is finite and it can be depleted by stress, decision fatigue, and emotional overwhelm. Willpower is like a mental muscle. It can be strong, but it can also be depleted with overuse. Like I mentioned, stress, decision fatigue, and emotional overwhelm can drain the resource by overloading the brain's prefrontal cortex, the area that's responsible for self-control. Then that makes it harder to resist temptations or stick to challenging goals as the day progresses. So what needs to change for success? Ditching alcohol is about building systems, getting routines in place, and new habits, not just willpower alone. Here are 6 key strategies that you can put into place so you can set up these routines and have systems so you're set up for success. Number 1 is environmental design. I want you to remove triggers, remove the alcohol from your house, remove glasses that remind you of drinking, even think of little things. If things show up and you're like, oh, that really makes me think about drinking, hide it temporarily. Make it so you don't see it. And also stock your fridge with non-alcoholic options. When you want to drink, have one of those instead. And lastly, I want you to think of creating a supportive space. Talk to the people that you live with, let them know that you're on an alcohol-free journey, and let them know how they can actually support you. I know this can feel really hard in the beginning, but it's super beneficial. Number 2 is building awareness. I want you to start identifying patterns, triggers, and emotional connections to alcohol. Simply observe yourself going through the day when you're new to your alcohol-free journey. When do you think about drinking? What are some things you go and do and they make your brain think, ooh, a drink sounds good right now? Those are things that you need to start saying, okay, that's a piece for me that maybe I need to work on changing. Simply having that awareness is going to take you so far, because then you can start making the changes you need for success. Number 3 is developing tools. I want you to start coming up with daily habits, stress management techniques, and coping mechanisms to get you through all of life's little moments. We talk about this a lot on the podcast, so I don't want to dive too far into it, but really look at your routines and say, are my routines setting me up for success in the morning? Do I have a solid morning routine that eases me into my day and has some dopamine boosting activities like a workout or meditation? Or do I just wake up when the alarm goes off and it's just time to get ready for the day and it's just craziness? Things like that can help you so much. And start coming up with breathing exercises you can do for stress management. Even start thinking about, am I taking care of my body so it's working at an optimum level? Am I fueling it with real food or am I fueling it with junk food? Those little things will really start to help as far as it goes with stress management. Number 4, I want you to start thinking about building support and community. You can do this by looking at the Daymakers as an option. There are tons of free alcohol-free communities out there on Facebook. You can look at joining AA. You could get a therapist or even one-on-one coaching with a life coach. Really look at this. Do you have friends in your life that are supportive of this? Do you have family members in your life that are supportive of this? If you don't, then it's time to start really thinking about doing something like an online community. Number 5 is mindset shifts. Start taking yourself from a mindset of deprivation to a mindset of abundance. One simple way to do this is to start practicing daily gratitudes. Every single day, write down 3 to 4 things that you're grateful for from the day before and make some of those things about being alcohol-free. Write down that you're grateful for not having a hangover. Write down that you're grateful for being fully present. All of those things will really, really help. It may seem like a super simple thing, but this simple thing will actually make it so you're feeling grateful to be alcohol-free instead of seeing all of the hard things about being alcohol-free. And very last, I want you to start addressing spiritual or emotional growth as a foundation for change. This one can be really hard for people when they're brand new, especially if you're like me and you're not really religious. You start hearing this and you can feel really turned off. But a spiritual practice can be as simple as waking up in the morning and doing a meditation and reflecting on all of the things that you're grateful for. That can get you into that spiritual mindset and start to help you see that there's something out there that's a little bit bigger than you. Now, this is something that I just did as a podcast episode not too long ago. So if you're curious about this, go listen to the episode that's all about finding your higher power your own way. So those are the 6 strategies you can put into place. Now, remember, you don't have to do all of them at once. Things like finding your spiritual journey and emotional growth might be some of the very last pieces. That's something that I didn't do until like 3 years into my alcohol-free journey. But really go through that list. Go back if you need to and listen to it and write down ideas and just have this all in place. Because remember, willpower is not a strategy. It's a tool that needs support. And it will not work all on its own. So to truly break free from alcohol, you need to focus on systems and support and mindset shifts. I hope this episode has left you feeling empowered on your alcohol-free journey. And if you're interested in joining the Push to 100, don't forget to go check out the link that's in the show notes so you can get yourself on the wait list. Lastly, I just want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast already, be sure to subscribe and rate and review. It helps the podcast so much and makes it so it can reach more people on their alcohol-free journey. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be in your ear next week.